My phone says 3:28 and my watch says 3:32, so I guess we'll average them and go to work. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. I'm Fred Guzik. I'm Faculty Senate President. If you don't recognize me, it's because I've spent the last 12 and a half years working on the Salina campus, so my face isn't necessarily familiar to everybody here. We're excited to be doing this. Faculty Senate hosts this event and has for a long time. And at Faculty Senate at Kansas State University, we include the professional staff as well as the faculty in the same senatorial body, and we work in concert with the student government and the university support staff and the administration, hopefully to try to get all of us pulling on the rope in the same direction, if you know what I mean. I was just telling President Schultz that I told my wife I was going to put my notes for this on my phone, and she said, "You've used a sticky note pad for 40 years. Put them on your sticky note pad." So I did that. From Faculty Senate leadership in the room, we should have, or do have mostly, from Professional Staff Affairs Committee, Mary Ann Andrews, Faculty Affairs co-chairs Betsy Cobble and Mindy Markham. I know Betsy's here. Academic Affairs Teresa Hartman. Committee on Technology Don Crawford. Committee on University Planning Spencer Wood. We have President-elect Andy Bennett here, and I haven't seen Dave Rentol. He's our immediate past president. I did see him when I looked at the archive video of last year's State of the University address, so I know what to do when I get up here. With that all said, Faculty Senate are pleased and proud to be hosting this event. We're very pleased that you are all here, and you didn't come to listen to me, so please welcome President Kirk Schultz.
Thank you. Everybody hear me all right? Good afternoon, and thank everybody for coming. You know, I think one of the things when I was a student, I always worried that I was going to sleep through an exam, and I think, my nightmare now is I show up to the State of the University, and it's me and Noel and April, and that's it. So I'm always pleased for folks coming out. Everybody who's joining us online as well, I welcome them, and we got people following us on Twitter and all kinds of other things. So this is my 7th State of the University address, and it's amazing to look back over the last year at a lot of the progress that we made, a lot of the exciting things happening on campus. And just as a reminder, what we've done at the State of the University address over the last several years is really focus on some of the successes that we've had this last year. April and I are going around to the colleges and similar units, and we're really doing a deep dive on K-State 2025 and some of the various areas and the different themes and the progress we're making there. So today we really are taking a higher level look at our university, at some of our successes, some of faculty, staff, and student achievements, some things going forward. I also, as you all know, like to have videos in my presentation. That means you have to listen to me a little bit less. But this year, Marketing Communications went out and interviewed people on campus and asked them different questions. And so I think you'll find the videos this year are probably a nice respite from me talking about things. But it's really kind of cool, and I hope as we go through those, you'll all enjoy those. So this is the State of the University address. So the first video really is going out on campus and asking people, what is the state of the university?
What is the state of Kansas State University right now? That's a good question.
I think K-State's changing for the better. I know we have a lot of construction going on, and that's kind of annoying the students right now, but I mean, I don't mind it, I guess.
Construction, and if that's what you're talking about, because it's the thing I notice most. Construction.
I would definitely say we're progressing. We're getting better at what we're doing, but we still have a lot more to get done.
I wouldn't say rebuilding, but I would just say like renewing. I mean, we got a new business building. You got stuff going on over at right behind me at Seton. You got stuff going over at the engineering building. I mean, there's a lot of construction going on. So
on track for our K-State 2025.
I think the future is bright. I mean, they're remodeling a lot of rooms that were really bad, and I've been to some of them that are like renovated and so much better, better learning experience, just because of better rooms.
There's definitely a transition happening that I've noticed within just the last year. They're heading towards, I think, better diversity statistics as well as a better campus. I think they're just trying to all around get a better feel. Everybody wants to be the best school in the nation, but I think they're really honestly trying to work hard towards making everybody feel like this is actually the best school in the nation. So.
Well, that concludes our State of the University talk. So, but I think it's interesting to hear people's perspectives on that, and certainly construction is one thing. Every year, we also report out a little bit on where we sit on these various university rankings and polls and things like that out there. The Princeton Review's best 378 colleges, number 4 for happiest students, number 5 for best run colleges, number 5. Yeah, like I said, man, we keep going up in that one. April and I are voting on this as much as we can. Number 5 for students who love those colleges. Number 6, quality of life. Number 7, intramural sports. Now, whether we're number 5 or 10 in this particular category is really not important, as much as folks who come here enjoy their academic experience. They like being on campus. They like the faculty and staff and the environment that they're in. I think this is important. We're the number 1 best value college town in Kansas, number 1 best college town in the nation. All these different things out there. U.S. News and World Report. We don't spend a lot of time worrying about that, because you can spend lots of time, effort, and money and not really make much movement in that. We're number 77 in top public university category, 146 in the national university category. The national university category have all the privates in there and things like that. And then once again, we've been named one of Forbes' America's top colleges. So, you know, it's important that we track these things and be proud of them when they're there, but not, I think, spend too much time worrying one way or another about some of them. Well, this next slide shows enrollment, and we are not at the 20th day yet. And as you all know, the 20th day numbers are the official university enrollment numbers that we put out there. We are going to be down in enrollment this fall for the first time over the last several years by several hundred students. And this was sort of across the board in international students, on graduate students, undergraduates, and so on and so forth. We'll have these official numbers out, but know that our enrollment will be somewhere still above 24,000, but we'll have those numbers out there. You can see Salina is down a little bit. Olathe is about where it's been the last couple years, and we will be continuing to dialogue about this on our campus over the next several weeks and months as we put together an enrollment management task force to set some enrollment goals out there and figure out how we would like to grow and what particular areas, the resources we need to get there, and then how we can support more effectively those growing areas on campus. This is total enrollment. This is total heads. One of the things that we also like to track is what does the student body look like coming in? And I'll show you what our diversity numbers look like in a minute. So the downside here is that we've decreased our size a little bit. The upside is a couple things. Still number 1 choice for Kansas high school graduates. We're going to have the most diverse entering class in the K-State history. We're also going to have the most academically gifted class coming in the K-State history with our average ACT over 24. So the good news is, while we may be down, we're bringing in really gifted students and a diverse student body, which is part of what I think is important for us as we look to the future. If we look at our diversity numbers here, this is shown with international at the top, Hispanic, Black, Asian, and multiracial. And if you can look, we continue to really do a nice job at increasing the number of Hispanic and Latino students at Kansas State University. Our high in terms of our Black students was in fall of 2012 at just over 1,000. Our Asian students continue to increase, and our multiracial students. Now, when you see those different categories, know that some of that is a shift from one category to the other, but you add it all up and you look at the size of our incoming class, so we continue to make great progress as a campus in diversifying our student body. Fundraising has certainly been one of the things that we've seen some really notable success in. And if you look here, we show a 5-year window of where we've been with fundraising. From 2011, we were just under $100 million to our high watermark was FY 2014 at $211 million. And that 211 had a $60 million gift in there, which was a watershed gift for the university. You can work in higher education for many, many years for a career and never see a second gift quite like that. So that was an extraordinary year. If you look at the last 3 years, we've averaged $167 million coming in to Kansas State University. We were also honored by CASE this last year for overall improvement in fundraising. And so people from the outside are also looking and seeing the progress that we made. Now, when you see these numbers, the important thing is not the dollars, it's the impact it has on our campuses. So we look at buildings, we look at endowed chairs and professorships, we look at scholarships for our students. A lot of things to move the campus forward are coming from these particular dollars. Ultimately, my job, other folks' job, is to take the great ideas that you all have as our faculty and staff and students and put it in front of alumni, corporations, and foundations and work to get them to invest in these particular ideas. We're the conveyor of those ideas, and we need to keep hearing those from all of you all. The other thing that we work on is growing our endowment. And if you look, our endowment was about $337 million, approximately $337.5 million in 2011, and just under $500 million in FY 2015. You grow the endowment not off of just returns. We've averaged an 8% return over the last 20 years. It's off of major gifts coming in and building that up. If you look at where our endowment value was compared to a lot of our 2025 peers when we started 5 years ago, we were at 50% of their endowment value. Now, although our peer schools are out there raising money at the same time, they're trying to do similar kinds of things, but if you look, those two lines have almost have gotten a lot closer together. We've really closed that gap, and this is certainly something that myself, your deans, other campus leaders are committed to continuing to build the Kansas State University endowment. Well, buildings, we heard that from our students on the state of the university, is certainly something that's very apparent on our campus. So $408 million for campus infrastructure in the past 5 years, $550 million planned for the next 5 years. And we have a variety of projects that all of you are aware of. Weefald Hall, our first new freshman residence hall in many, many years. The engineering expansion, and you might have seen in the last couple days in the Topeka Capital Journal, there was a terrific article about the engineering expansion and the building moving forward and the impact it was going to have on our students and things like that. That should be open, soft opening sometime next month, and classes in there at the beginning of next semester. Seton Hall, we just enjoyed doing a groundbreaking on Seton Hall this about a week and a half ago on a Friday afternoon before our home football opener. We had a great crowd out, and I want to express my appreciation for our students, faculty, and staff in the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design who are now in a lovely location out near the airport, and that as of a couple days ago didn't have internet because the server was never delivered that they needed on time, and that's supposed to be here very, very soon, I hope. But the faculty, staff, and students elected to, instead of trying to do a renovation while they're in the building, to actually move out of that section of the building to a different location that clearly has got some inconveniences, but that allows us to really move forward with that renovation in a timely fashion. So a little bit of pain initially. For the end of the day, it's going to be really, really great. So we appreciate that moving forward. The College of Business Administration building, that is moving along very well, as I mentioned in previous talks. Every morning, I can see everybody out there working hard. You know, I'm a chemical engineer and didn't study in the building construction area, but the way they're building this building is kind of neat if you have a chance to walk around it. At the north end of the building, they're putting on limestone. The south end of the building, they're still putting steel work up. So it's kind of morphing, so you can walk from one side and see what it's going to look like to the other side where they're still erecting steel. And they say they can keep all the crews going that way, but let me tell you what, that is a big, big building. I did not realize quite how big it was until they started. So, you know, Cool deal there. The Bernie Family Welcome Center, we can certainly see that back here. And folks, I remember walking through Old Memorial Stadium in that area underneath there 5, 6 years ago, and it was not, shall we say, very hospitable and useful. If you have a chance to check out the purple mask over here, it is amazing to sit in there and realize that you're sitting underneath an old stadium. The green roof is coming along pretty well too, and as that continues to serve as a living laboratory for College of Architecture, Planning and Design, also a neat step forward. The Bernie Family Welcome Center, which is going to be over here, and as you can see, construction's really going along well on that. And I think when we celebrate all this being done, this has been privately funded, and I think it's going to be a great gateway to our campus and a great place for the companies and people coming in to hire our graduates to come and have great interview space. And finally, the Student Union. Every day you walk through the Student Union, it's a little different. They're building walls that weren't there before, and that construction and renovation is going on. And I know they're going to work hard to maintain services during this time, but I appreciate our students and how hard they have worked over the last several years with architects and things to fit the project into the budget and update our Student Union. So all of these together, and at least April's favorite project, if you've heard our 2025 talks, is the pipes being laid around campus for our new chiller plant. Maybe not as sexy as some of these other things, but very, very much needed infrastructure. And I appreciate, again, the fact that it has been inconvenient to move around campus this summer. It's inconvenient now. But at the same time, this is infrastructure that we need for the increased square footage and to make sure that we do this now and don't have to do it again in 5 or 6 years. So lots of great things happening on our campus, and thank you for your flexibility as these things go. So next video is again going out and talking to the same group of folks again. And what's the first word that comes to mind when you hear K-State?
Home.
Awesome. Just generally awesome.
Family.
Wildcat.
Loyal. Family.
Football.
Really, the first word that comes to mind is purple.
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 Purple, which is my favorite color, so that's okay.
Either purple or family. I think purple because everything is, I toured here and the first thing they gave me was a purple shirt and said, you should wear it. And I was like, okay. And they said, welcome to the family. So those two things have stuck.
Yeah. Personally, very disappointed nobody said K-State 2025, but you know, you got to live with what's there. One of the things that I'm particularly proud of is our student championship teams. And one of the challenges with putting together one of these presentations to talk about faculty achievement, student achievement, staff achievement is we could go on for slide after slide. So we always have to pick a few things that are representative. But I want to express my appreciation to the faculty and staff who advise these student teams. The students who are out there competing and learning. And sometimes we talk about the ones that win things, but the fact that you're putting this together and adding this to your educational experience is really, really critical. So the personal financial planning, second place national team. Our quarter scale tractor team, again, second place in international competition. The Fountain Wars team, third place in international competition. If you look carefully at that picture, you can see they managed to pull off the tuxedo t-shirts very, very well. So I had one of those I was going to wear for this, but got that nixed a little bit early on. So, and our crops team, 6th straight national championship. If we look at some other areas, our National Strategic Selling Institute, students named one of the top in the U.S. for the 4th straight year. Our robotics team, a 9th straight championship. And every college and every unit out there has teams competing in different things, and we could have additional slides on here, but you know, congratulations to these student teams. These are the experiences that people will remember long after they've been at K-State. And to our faculty and staff advisors, to the donors who provide financial resources to allow travel and equipment and things for teams. So our students doing great things. We also had 2 students that won Fulbright Scholarship Awards this year. Jael Whitney is a sophomore in business administration. She'll be a Fulbright Scholar in Scotland. And Hannah Ross Rogers, who's in modern languages and pre-law, will be a Fulbright Scholar in Germany. And we want to continue to emphasize our students competing for these because they do very, very well. We talk about Fulbrights and studying abroad and the international part of Kansas State University. We have more than 2,000 international students at the undergraduate and graduate level representing more than 100 countries. And this has grown over the last several years, and we really appreciate the hard work that goes into recruiting these particular students, but also making them feel welcome and making them feel part of the K-State family and a great educational experience. This year, we also had a record number of K-State students that participated in an international experience abroad, so over 700. This was a pretty low number not too many years ago, and I want to give a shout out to Marcelo and his team and all of you on campus that lead these particular groups and seek to have opportunities to get our students outside the United States. This has also been supported with some really generous scholarship donations there, where we have alumni and people who've been very successful in life that come back and say, one of the reasons I got to where I was today is because I had a chance to serve in my company or do something outside the United States. So we have more than $400,000 in scholarship money to help make this an affordable experience. I think within just a few years, this will be over 1,000 K-State students a year doing this. I would love to see every single one of our students do that. That's not realistic, but we want to continue to grow this, as I think it's an important part of our experience. And then there was a number of faculty and others that worked for several years to get a Confucius Institute, which was launched in April. It was the second in Kansas and the 102nd in the U.S., and I think this really bodes well for our future relationships with China and the number of Chinese students, faculty, and staff that we have studying back and forth. Faculty achievements. We have a number of terrific achievements, and so I like to kind of highlight a few things, particularly the Fellow Awards. The other thing I want to do here is thank you all for nominating your colleagues. As we go through these, it takes somebody to put together a nomination package and call people up and email them and try and get it all put together. While we're proud of the achievements, we also appreciate the unsung folks out there that sometimes have taken a lot of time to put this together for a colleague, and I want to encourage you all to continue to do that. One of the fun things every day in K-State Today is to look and scan through it, and it's a rare day that we don't have a faculty, staff member, or a student that has been selected for some sort of national, international award or recognition, and I think that's certainly increased dramatically over the last 5 to 6 years. So new fellows for the American Association for the Advancement of Science were Michael Smith in entomology, Chris Sorensen in physics. The National Science Foundation Faculty Early Career Awards, one of the top awards given by the National Science Foundation to young faculty in the STEM fields, went to Gurpreet Singh in mechanical and nuclear engineering. The Barry Sherman Teaching Award from the Association for Education and Journalism and Mass Communication to Angela Powers. The American Society for Agricultural and Biological Engineering Fellow to Freddie Lamb in BAE. The Merrill Distinguished Veterinary Parasitologist Award. I hope I said that right. I felt if I said it fast, that maybe you wouldn't have noticed that I mispronounced it. But Michael Dryden in Diagnostic Medicine and Pathobiology. The American Dairy Science Fellow Award to Jeffrey Stevenson in Animal Sciences and Industry. We enjoyed last night re-signing our commitment to work with Fort Riley, and we do this whenever there's a change of command over there or a significant change in leadership. And we have the new commanding general and their staff over to the house, and we had a ceremony. We work closely with Fort Riley, and I think that's really a cool part of K-State and the Fort working together. Well, in recognition of those kinds of relationships, we had two of our faculty that were recognized for really going above and beyond working with our military, and that was Brianna Goff in Family Studies and Human Services, Daryl Youngman in the K-State Libraries. The Gerontological Society of America Fellow, Gail Dahl in the Center on Aging, Ecological Society of America Fellow, John Blair, University Distinguished Professor of Biology. The Kansas Dietetic Association Distinguished Dietitian of the Year, Kevin Sauer. The 2015 icon of education, our own Tim DeNoble, Dean of the College of Architecture, Planning, and Design. And I want to really talk, Tim did a great job over the last 3 or 4 years on this Seton renovation project, engaging with alumni, working with our legislature, and really, as a dean, just taking that leadership on and pushing through to make that happen. The National Beef Quality Assurance Educator of the Year, Dan Thompson with the Beef Cattle Institute in our College of Veterinary Medicine. The Upjohn Fellowship from the American Institute of Architects to Wendy Ornelas in our College of Architecture, Planning, and Design. An Early Career Award for the International Wheat Genome Sequencing Consortium, Vijay Tiwari, in Plant Pathology. A Visiting Research Fellow at the Australian Population and Migration Research Center, Matthew Sanderson in Sociology, Anthropology, and Social Work, and then the Kansas World Language Teacher of the Year, Chuck Thorpe, in our Spanish program. We are proud of our faculty achievements. We could have slide after slide, and one of the things that makes K-State great and makes the experience for our students so great is our dedication of our faculty. So my congratulations to all the people we mentioned and the 50 people that should have been mentioned that we weren't able to in the interest of time. We also have an outstanding staff here. And each year at the professional staff level, we award the President's Award of Excellence. And this year we had 4 individuals that were selected for that by their peers. Gloria Holcomb in Communications and Agricultural Education, Matt Clark in the College of Engineering, Tanya McGee in the Office of Student Financial Assistance, and Tim Carson in Animal Sciences and Industry. And we appreciate the dedication that these professional staff have to student excellence and faculty excellence and helping the university continue to move forward. We also have University Support Staff Awards of Excellence each particular year. And these come with a cash award and some wonderful recognition. And again, these are peer selected. There are 3 different categories. In the office and clerical category, Megan Bozarth in the College of Arts and Sciences, Dean's Office. In the technical and professional area, Christy Dipman in Horticulture, Forestry, and Recreational Resources. And in the service and maintenance area, Susan Hazelbacker in Veterinary Health Center in our College of Veterinary Medicine. So my congratulations to all the faculty and staff that we were able to recognize here, make a huge, huge difference in everything happening at Kansas State. So what would you do if you were K-State president for a day? All of you be thinking about that because there are some wonderful, wonderful ideas here. Please enjoy.
If I was a K-State president for a day,
Probably tell everyone that I was the president. Just let everyone know. That's a big deal.
I'd make tuition free.
Have all the classes be taught by the professors in their pajamas.
probably go eat at the Derb for free.
You know, I'd give everyone a break. I'd be like, we're closing the university.
No school for a week.
It's so easy to say cancel school.
Probably come over here to the UAS lab and come and check out what we're doing and maybe come and fly some aircraft.
Free lunch between like noon and 1.
Call Hall ice cream for everyone since I have yet to go. That would be what I'd do.
I would like to say lower tuition, but I'm pretty sure these buildings cost money, so.
I don't know, make a campus-wide party or something.
Put smoothie machines throughout the campus. Because like when it's really hot, I'm really just like craving a free smoothie. It would be free. I don't know how that would be budgeted in, but we would figure it out.
So in the charge, the University Budget Advisory Committee, free smoothie machines. That's got to be there. So, well, one of the things when we talk about K-State, sometimes we think about K-State as just Manhattan. And we have 4 campuses: Global Campus, Manhattan, Salina, and Olathe. We have K-State Research and Extension Centers, research centers across our state of Kansas. And so what we want to do is highlight a little bit of each of those particular areas as well. So if we look at the Salina campus, one of the things is now offering a bachelor's degree with a minor in engineering technology with an unmanned aircraft systems option in a unique university public-private partnership opened a Bulk Solids Innovation Center. It's a cool facility and building. It's supported by local industry. It's supported by the city of Salina, staffed by K-State, Salina. It's really going to bring some great applied research opportunities to that campus, that area, and some cooperation back with brain science and industry and faculty on the Manhattan campus. But if you haven't had a chance to see this, make sure that you let us know, and if you're going to be in Salina, love to have you go over there and see it. We also were designated an FAA Center of Excellence for Unmanned Aircraft Systems. And sometimes higher education gets a reputation for, gee, you don't work with your colleagues much in the state. This is collaboration with Wichita State University and the University of Kansas. There's a multitude of universities that are involved in this. It's the only unmanned aerial systems center of excellence that the FAA gave. So K-State Salina being an important integral part of that is very critical. And we're working with NIAR, which is one of the top 2 or 3 institutes in the U.S. in terms of applied research and support the aircraft industry. So lots of cool things happening on that. And you all may have seen that with the Board of Regents this week, we started the process to change the name of the campus from K-State Salina to K-State Polytechnic to really reflect the future of where we think that campus is going. And we'll certainly have more information on that over the next month as we roll out materials and things like that. But an exciting change and exciting opportunities for our Salina campus. Our Olathe campus, Ralph Richardson was sort of retired from an administrative position for like 2 or 3 hours, right? So he stepped down as, stepped out of the position as the Dean of College of Veterinary Medicine, and we were able to entice him to serve as our interim Dean and CEO at our K-State Olathe campus. One of the things they've done is they have a new graduate certificate in leadership dynamics, and beginning October 5th, master's degree programs will be offered in industrial engineering and operations research, and we have a faculty member that's been hired that will help us do that and work with industry in that area. And we're continuing to look for great ideas where we can, things in Olathe can complement what we're doing at K-State Manhattan and Salina campuses. So as you all have ideas, please continue to bring those forward. Well, our global campus, and we rebranded and renamed this a couple years ago. More than $300,000 has been invested by our global campus out to help people develop coursework and materials and things to be offered in online education. Supported nearly 200 continuing education conferences with 25,000 participants. And many of you who've worked with the conferencing staff there know that they do a great job of handling all that background work, and it's wonderful to have that kind of resource on campus. We also had a record number of 584 graduates, and if you see the slide up there, that's one of our proud graduates. If I look a little faded, that's because that's flat Kirk. That's how I can do things in multiple areas as cardboard cutouts. So what I'm going to show next is a short video from the global campus. It's the 30-second spot that you may have seen on TV and other places advertising our global campus and really reflecting a little bit about the opportunities that online education gives to people interested in that experience.
I am an artist.
I'm an explorer.
A parent.
Working full-time.
I am the future. I'm finishing my bachelor's degree.
Getting my master's.
Becoming professionally certified. I'm a student. I'm on my way.
And I am global.
Kansas State University's global campus is your connection to learn online, develop professionally, and connect globally. Go online for more information about K-State's global campus.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap up with K-State Research and Extension. This also has a lot of notable achievements over this last year. Chuck Rice, University Distinguished Professor, will chair the Board on Agriculture and Natural Resources under the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. And interestingly, is already starting to bring back some unique opportunities to K-State through this type of service. We had 4 K-State Research and Extension faculty who received awards for published papers, including the most highly cited in 2009 and 2013. And then we had 2 U.S. patents granted for discoveries by KSRE faculty members. Now, we could continue on with this and talk about things that happen at the different sites, but Kansas State University Research and Extension is an integral part of the Kansas State experience. It's an integral part of what we do to help advance the state of Kansas, and it's broad-ranging in many of the impacts that it's going to have on the state's economy and our ability to compete in the global marketplace. So, athletics. We had an excellent year in athletics, including leading the Big 12 in academic progress rate in 5 sports, including men's golf, volleyball, football with 85 scholarship student athletes, men's cross country and women's cross country. We want to see in athletics clearly to be competitive on the field, but we want to be equally as competitive in the classroom. And I'm very proud of the fact that we're continuing to do a great job recruiting terrific student athletes who are going to be students and do a great job in the classroom in addition to competing at an elite level. Many of you have driven by, seen, gone in from different angles, seen the Veneer Football Complex, which is really a state-of-the-art facility for K-State athletics. $50 million was raised in private gifts in about 13 months for that particular facility. If you don't think we've made much progress in this area, simply look at pictures from 4 years ago and look today, and it's pretty amazing. Ahern Fund membership exceeds 10,000 with donors in all 50 states. Why is this important to the university? We need people connected back with K-State in any way, form possible. We are blessed at Kansas State University to have a number of major significant supporters and donors that support athletics and academics. We have very, very few people who just provide money for athletics. Other institutions that I've worked, that was not the case, but when we look at, for example, the Veneer gift, which was that $60 million gift, $20 million went for athletics, $40 million went for endowed chairs, professorships, scholarships, and academic enterprise. And we just have to remember that when we see that and go, wow, athletics raises all this money. Well, so does the rest of the university, and we have donors supporting both. K-State Band was awarded the 2015 Sudler Trophy. As a matter of fact, that's happening tonight. There's a banquet here. This is given to the best marching band in the country. And it represents not a single point in time, but an evolution of excellence as our band. And we're very proud of this, and there'll be a halftime presentation tomorrow. Looking really forward to that. And then Coach Bill Snyder, elected to the College Football Hall of Fame. If you're still actively coaching, you must be 75 before you can get in there, so that's why it's this year before Coach was able to make that. So let's, to wrap up, we have each year a video that Pat Shop and works with marketing, communication, and others to put together that as we go out to attract that next set of K-State students is what we play at different places. For those of you watching it online, because we aren't really ready to have this out there everywhere, you'll have to see me watching the video. But for those of you who are here live, you get a chance to see this. And remember, it's kind of our hype video as we go out to high schools and places like that to recruit that next best class. So folks, please enjoy. So with that, let me thank everybody once again for coming out and listening. For those of you online, thank you for participating. I'd certainly be happy to answer any questions that people may have, and I know we'll let Fred maybe moderate those as they come in. If people want to send things on Twitter, we've got people also kind of following that, and we'll make sure we get those out here as well. So, yes, sir.
Might better start right here. Are there questions in the room? You're just like my students. Nobody moved.
But they're awake, Fred. That's the difference. So,
please.
You ready? Yeah. I'll start off. I know you've heard this many times before, that we all need more pay. I'm the president of University Sports Staff. I don't see the legislature giving us any more funding or increasing our funding. Are we looking at other avenues other than depending on the legislature to try and bolster our pay?
Yep. So I think a couple things around that. I agree with you. I don't see, at least with the current political environment in Topeka, us seeing any sort of an increase in our state general fund amount of money coming to us. So the question is, where are we going to get any money for any new stuff, salaries and other types of things? It's either got to come from tuition and or fees, places like that, or some sort of internal reallocation type of mechanism. Just to put things in perspective, for a 2% pool for the university, for faculty, staff, everybody, we probably got to find $5-6 million. So going out and taxing everybody doesn't seem really the solution to that either. But we spent a day as a university leadership team with our deans looking at 7, 8, or 10, something like that, different ways that perhaps we can find some efficiencies and things and dollars that we can put back into our faculty and staff salaries. That's one approach that we're working on taking. And the second approach is going to have to continue to be using some sort of tuition and fee arrangement to make sure that we put that in place. The state budget has been flat in my entire time here or down. I mean, we've not seen a general fund increase in my entire time here. Colleague employees that are state employees outside the university system now are going to go into their 7th or 8th year without any kind of even cost of living adjustment. So we're going to continue to do everything we can, but I want everybody to understand at some point you can squeeze the rock here only so much. Most of you are not sitting on, SAU as a campus, departments are not sitting on this huge amount of money because we've been squeezed for enough years that a lot of those reserve things people have spent, and they're just not there. So what are we going to do? We're going to look at internal stuff, and we're going to look at using tuition and fees and see what kinds of things that we can do to build in a mechanism for salary increases.
There have been a lot of questions about the Vice President for Research search. What can you tell us about the status of that?
Sure. So Jeff Morris is leading that particular search and has been out talking with different individuals about serving on the search committee. He and I will have visited about this 2 or 3 times and gone through lists of prospective faculty and staff and students and so forth that we think would be excellent committee members. We're hopeful to have that finalized in the next week or so and to put an announcement out to campus about that. Since we just did a search such a short time ago, we've already got the position description, all that stuff is kind of done. And my goal, Andy, is to be in a position by the first of the year where we may not have the person in place, but at least we have that person identified. There's no reason the search has to take a year. We should be able to get most of it done this next semester. We want to look aggressively nationally, and we want to look aggressively internally. And we want to find the best candidate possible that is going to come in and work within our culture effectively and help us advance the research agenda. So be watching for an announcement out there about the search committee anytime. So, thank you.
Other questions in the room? Pretty calm group of people this afternoon. There were a few questions that arose during Faculty Senate. Provost Mason was kind enough to come and address a Faculty Senate meeting recently, shortly after the what's the word, firestorm on social media regarding the band and the halftime show and so forth. One of the major questions in my mind that arose is how can we consider having the creative work of a faculty member examined by non-academic groups such as athletics and student life before it is made public?
Yeah, I think, and we could talk about this for a long time. I think one of the things when we were looking at what occurred was what kinds of protections can we also put in place for our band director and our band. We felt by having a couple people look over in general what the band was interested in doing, and we already do a lot of this. So, for example, the choreography, all that has been going on for years, where there's discussions ahead of time to make sure that announcements and the types of things that are done. We felt, though, that it's going to provide some protection for the band and for Dr. Trace to say, hey, you know, we had this looked over and people thought this was fine. If anybody got any issues, you got to go talk to somebody else. And so that was our rationale behind that. I think I'm not sure I would consider necessarily the band formations to be personal scholarship. And I think that's probably where some of the key difference of opinion may be. I think what I want to do as well is at the end of the year is to sit down with our band director, and I'm happy to have you, Fred, and others to sit down and talk with Dr. Trace and say, well, has it been helpful? Has it been hurtful? Has it any way curtailed the types of things that you want to do? And I think we need to look at that, and if there needs to be some additional types of action taken to make sure that we're not constraining anything, that's fine. But I think at this particular point, we just need a little bit of oversight.
There is a related question. The sanction of Dr. Trace not being at the KU football game was a publicly announced sanction. In general, personnel matters are handled internally. Boards of directors of government entities go into closed session when they talk about personnel matters and so forth. So that also raised the hackles of a large number of faculty.
Yeah, and I think the challenge that we had with this particular situation was that the Big 12 Conference felt there was a sportsmanship violation and sent us a formal letter that said there is a violation and we need you to do these sorts of things within 24 hours. You've got to get back to us and say what types of actions that you're going to be taking. We did not have the ability to extend that out for a week or two. So that I didn't feel that it was appropriate for me simply to make that decision on my own. So one of the things that we did was we convened an in-person meeting with myself, with the provost, with the dean of arts and sciences, and with the interim director of the School of Music, Theater, and Dance. And we had a lively meeting on Monday to discuss, when it occurred before we sent anything into the Big 12 Conference, to discuss the proposed sanctions and make sure that we were comfortable with it. And there were several questions that came up at that is, you know, is there any due process for this type of a thing that is significantly different than other types of things that could happen? And so the problem was, in many regards, there was no chapter or procedure that we say, okay, this is what we need to follow. So we did what we thought was the best thing possible. It was made very clear to us, though, and I want everybody to understand this, the Big 12 Conference was going to put that out. And they were going to put out exactly what the sanctions were because they said it's a public sanction. So when we put out the information, I felt it was important for the K-State community to hear it from us first and not from the Big 12 Conference first. But this was a case we had no ability to say, okay, well, that should not have been made public because it was going to come out from Dallas whether we felt it was appropriate to or not.
The only other related item is a question that came up through Faculty Affairs regarding whether there was any impact on the process or on the results of the process that that was related to or driven by the Board of Regents' social media policy.
No. Absolutely not. The Board of Regents' social media policy had nothing to do with this. Now, I think I had a discussion, I've had lots of discussions with many folks about this, and the 400 or 500 hate mails I got, I'm happy to share with anybody who'd like to see them. But one of the things that I think is several people said, well, you claim it's a sportsmanship violation, and that's what occurred, but you know, it didn't have something to do with social media. The violations and the things that we reported were not social media related things. Now the challenge is, though, social media certainly plays a role. I'm not sure anybody outside of Kansas would have ever seen the thing if somebody hadn't put it out on social media. So we had no control over that, but that's the weird world that we live in today. Just for everybody's information, I mean, they did a halftime show, and many of you were at the game. It was an awesome halftime show. What could happen, though, is as the game went on, I got a call about 2 minutes left saying, Kirk, you got to come look at this. And so I went up to athletics, and they showed that this thing had gone out there, and it was, at that time, we had lost all control over it. We had major media outlets that were pulling this thing up and reporting it, and that's when we issued an apology on social media as well. Our colleagues in Ames this last weekend had an incident at their football game where the president was walking in with a Republican presidential candidate into a suite, and somebody took a picture of it, put it on social media that he had endorsed a candidate. They had to put out a big statement and stuff like this. There was nothing like that intended. I share that only because the social media world we live in can take stuff in 2 hours that should be trivial and should be easily handleable, and it becomes the kind of thing that we actually have no control over. So trust me, when I woke up Sunday morning and pulled up USA Today, I was hopeful to see something in there about K-State 2025 and not this particular instance. And I say that a little tongue-in-cheek, but the fact of the matter is this is the world that we live in, and we're going to have to make sure we do handle these things effectively. And the last thing I'll say on this is Jeff Morris and several others are getting everybody together to basically go back over everything that we did and how we handled it. Basically, if something like this happens again, I mean, you're never going to have exactly this happen again, but something similar, we want to go back and say, did we handle things appropriately? Did I handle things appropriately? We would love to hear your input on things that we could have done differently. Now, just simply saying, Kirk, you mishandled it, I mean, that's fine if it makes you feel better. We would like constructive people saying, okay, I don't think you handled it well, and here's what I would suggest that you do. That's what we kind of need, is people saying, hey, something like this happens, here's how we can handle this better in the future. So.
Are there other questions in the audience? Yes, please.
So it's related to the same thing. You're probably tired of talking about the issue, but is there any plans to go back to the Big 12 about the fact that they might have more sportsman-like sort of issues that maybe they should be focusing on, other than whether there's a mascot on our field when we're not playing the team? I'm just wondering, as far as whether there's any sort of appeal or due process or something in that way from the Big 12 standpoint, because that obviously escalated the situation further as well than probably what I think a lot of faculty feel like needed to be done.
Yep. Fair enough. I think let's look at it from the Big 12 Conference for just a second. So if I told you that there was a school in the Big 12 Conference that had 2 major sportsmanship violations or issues that made national media in the last 6 months that both involved the same school, you would say, well, my God, they got to get their act together. So February at the men's basketball game against our rival in-state, when we had the player contact incident and all that kind of stuff on national TV, the inappropriate chanting that I don't care where you were. I heard more about that from alumni than any of that other kinds of things that said, you know, this isn't my university, hearing this inappropriate kind of chanting out there. 6 months later, you have something else that blows up. Guess what? Same university, same rival there. So when we want to go back and say, Big 12, you got to be more fair and all that kind of stuff, from their perspective, we're the only school that's had 2 things that occur like this. So I'm like most of you, I would want to disconnect those and say, well, one was basketball and one was football, and it's 6 months different. From their perspective, we've had 2 incidents that occur involving the same set of things. And, you know, I think that's part of the reason this occurred. The second thing is the Big 12 Conference instituted new sportsmanship rules this summer that were voted on by the Board of Directors because all of us felt that we needed to up sportsmanship issues in the conference. It just happened to be we were one of the first schools that came under some of those new rules and regulations. Precedent's been set. So if something else happens out there, I think it's very fair of us when that happens, if it looks like nothing's going to happen, to call them up and say, hey, I think we got to be consistent here. This is what happened at K-State. You know, what's happening there? So we'll see what happens. But please do remember that the two things, I think, are more connected in most people's minds than most of us would have. Hey, Brian.
I just like to let everybody be reminded that we're talking about, in Dr. Trace's case, a tenured full professor at this university leading a group of students that do this for academic credit. I think that's very different from something that happens at a basketball game when the students are not under the control of a faculty member.
Certainly. Thank you. Other comments?
Other questions? We're 0 for 2. Before I let President Schultz off the stage, I have 2 mea culpas because I actually forgot, I'm getting really old, I actually forgot 2 incredibly important people when I was rattling off the list of faculty, senate, leadership, and so forth. Without Candace LeBurge in our office, nothing would get done. And without our secretary, Lolita Sump, we wouldn't remember what had gotten done. So please, for both of them.
And let me just again express my appreciation for coming. I want to also express my appreciation for all of you who serve in the different governance groups, whether it's Student Senate, University Support Staff Senate, or Faculty Senate. You don't get paid for that. It's a lot of extra work on top of everything that you all do. And while we may sometimes disagree on things, I think we have a spirit of collaboration here between all the different groups that really makes a big difference. I have worked at places where there was not that spirit of collaboration, and it makes a big difference in terms of ability to make things happen on campus. So it's a privilege to serve as your president. Look forward to doing my 8th one of these next year, and let's have a great academic year. Thank you.
There are cookies in the back.